I'll be there for you. Today we're going to talk about the TV series Friends. You guys, for a long time now, Friends has been one of my top favorite TV shows of all time. Friends, while now I suppose is outdated, is so funny. I know that it's also received a lot of backlash because of the, politically incorrect stuff in it. Like, I know gender roles are, asserted and bashed throughout. And, some stuff against, the gay community and, I don't know, some other things in there that just, at this point, are things that we all, look at as, oh, that's so, politically incorrect. But that stuff notwithstanding, can we just get past that? The show itself is so funny. One of my favorite things about this show is the wit and humor in it throughout. It's not just funny timing and whatever. There are so many genius moments in the writing and the delivery. The way the actors say their lines. I remember there was a moment where Rachel has a baby and they can't get the baby to be quiet. So Monica, Phoebe, and Rachel are doing everything they can to try and get Emma to fall asleep. And at some point, Monica does something that makes the baby stop crying. And Phoebe comes out of the back room and she's like, "Have I gone deaf? Oh my gosh, I can hear birds chirping. I can hear cars on the street. I can hear the voices in my head again." And Phoebe is notorious throughout the show for being that weird, mystical, occultic, superstitious weirdo in the group. And so Monica's like, "What?" Looks at her all concerned and she's like, "I'm kidding." And Monica looks back at the baby all relieved. And Phoebe's like, you have this moment with Phoebe by yourself where she's like, "Nope, they're back." And you're like this. And there are moments throughout where Phoebe just has these moments that I love. It's so funny. And I think I want to give an honorable mention to Rachel. Jennifer Aniston has moments where she'll deliver lines, and she's a static, solid, stable character throughout the show, so you wouldn't expect this, eccentricity from her, but she has moments where her delivery is genius. The way she reacts to stuff and the things that she would say, even her physical reaction, clever. I guess my biggest appreciation about the show is the clever, intelligent humor throughout. It was so rewarding up to that point in my experience of TV. I hadn't seen that kind of stuff before. Obviously, you also have the camaraderie and the bond and the friendship that continues to be displayed pretty pronounced throughout the series. You see the characters go through hardship and face awkward or difficult dynamics in social situations, and you see them support and love each other, and they have these moments where it's pronounced affection and they go out of their way to be supportive. And I loved seeing that displayed on screen. I love that there was this proponent, this advocate for no, friendship's still real. We still do this. We still touch each other. We still love each other. We still come in clutch for each other. And we see it regularly. It's a strong, intense pattern throughout the whole show. I love that. It's such a positive display of brotherly love and friendship throughout. And so that was a big win for me. And at this point, Friends is just kind of this comforting, familiar thing that I would just throw on in the background. And I think at this point it's a generational thing probably. I don't know a ton of younger people now who've seen the show or care about it as much because, the landscape of that whole world has just gotten so diverse and so, stalked that Friends just kind of gets buried in the background, and so now I'm some old dude who likes it. So, those of you who haven't seen the show, or maybe just saw an episode here or there, it's worth going through the series. It's on Netflix, and watching. One thing I'll say about the Netflix thing is they cut out random stuff that if you had the DVDs, which I do, there's stuff in the DVD series you don't get on Netflix. I don't know why. It's not. They don't cut out certain stuff. It just seems like they're trying to make the episodes shorter or something. But anyway, highly recommend this show. So much fun, so funny. Moral standards, kind of questionable, obviously. But still so rewarding in the humor and the emotional intelligence and the wit throughout. One thing I do want to point out with the dynamic in Friends is, and something that's super fascinating for me to observe as a discerner and an anthropologist, is they have this moral code that's kind of imposed. This happens in shows in general, but it's very much consistent throughout Friends, where there are things you have to feel guilty for, things you have to be accommodating to, things that you have to feel a certain way about, and if you don't, you're a terrible person. And if you do, then you're acceptable and right and good. And so you see the characters compelled in this moral code, and then they all just negotiate and behave or whatever, or don't. And so it's fascinating to observe that code like kind of being unspoken, but definitely pronounced throughout the show. And so there's so many moments where the characters have reactions to things, and I'm like, what? That's not normal. Like, that's not. They don't have to do that. It's kind of oppressive at times, like seeing them having to live within this confine of morality. Not that there isn't right or wrong, but that their version of right and wrong is so slanted and biased to a certain perspective rather than an actual like deeper truth of who God is and what He's like, regardless of the circumstance, right? And so that's been also very interesting for me to observe, and something that I don't love about the show. It's something to like be mindful of, and I think I've always felt a disconnection from the writing in that, because I see them kind of imposing what you're supposed to be like to be a good citizen or a good friend or a good wife or husband or boyfriend or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's one commentary, but I don't know that's how it's supposed to look, or it has to, or like there are times where it's absolutely not that. That's actually kind of heinous, right? And so just getting to see like a social commentary on how someone else thinks that we're supposed to do adult life together. I'm like, whoa, I don't agree. And so that's been another interesting theme throughout the whole show that I consistently come up against, where I see this interesting like push for, and they're not trying to get you to think this way. It's more like, no, this is how we think. Like, this is what a decent human being would do, or how they would respond. I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I don't feel like that's authoritative. And so that's also throughout the show. So it's interesting to observe, like, you know, your own moral compass come up and seeing how the characters respond to things, and when there are times where you're pushed with this kind of assumption that this is how you'd respond to this, and if you don't, then there's something wrong with you. Really interesting, and it's very much pronounced in the show throughout. Yeah, like, for example, there's a moment where Rachel and Monica, who live in the good apartment, lose a bet to Joey and Chandler, who live in the not so good apartment right across the hall. And so they actually end up having to swap apartments, which is this dramatic, like, awful thing for a couple episodes. The girls have to live in this nightmare of a situation. So Monica's the neat freak, right? She's the one who keeps things clean, keeps people in line, is orderly, and like kind of leads the group in some ways. And so she is trying to make the new living situation livable for her and Rachel. And as they're like walking through this journey, Rachel comes out just so angry and irritated because she's got a neighbor who sings every morning, "Morning's here, the morning's here." And she's like, "Stop it!" And I thought that scene was so funny because I've never been a morning person, and so I would straight up feel the same way she would in that moment. And she just freaks out, screams at it, and tells him to knock it off. She's like, "It's Saturday." He's like, "I know, but it's morning." She'll keep singing, and he keeps singing, and she's like, Anyway, so she comes to the living room. Joey and Monica are having breakfast at the table, and she's like, "I hate this apartment. I hate these walls. I hate this smell." And she's like just going nuts and complaining. And then Monica's like, "I've like gone out of my way to make this place a livable situation for us, and you're just over here belly aching, and I'm sick of it." And Rachel's like, "You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." And she just like immediately changes her mind, her mood, which to me feels really like inorganic, but also I respect it on some level. So it's kind of this twisted response. But in that moment, all of a sudden, Rachel's wrong for not liking where she lives. Maybe complaining about it isn't awesome, and I see that, but also it's like, I don't know that she's not allowed to express that, you know what I mean? And so you see this moment where all of a sudden Rachel's like dislike for this is shut down by Monica's efforts. And all of a sudden, because Monica did something, Rachel doesn't get to feel something anymore. I totally disagree with that. I think that's heinous and dysfunctional, but that happens throughout the show consistently. And that, to me, actually stifles freedom and eliminates authenticity from people being able to be honest and express themselves in relationship. In that scenario, I'd want Rachel to be able to express where she's coming from, share where she's at, why does she feel that way, for Monica to meet her with understanding, and then also express, like, you know what, I'm trying to make this place livable, and it sucks to me that you don't seem to appreciate that, and then they can work it out, but Rachel doesn't get shamed or shut down for not loving it. You know what I mean? Anyway, love it. And remember, guys, when you're watching a movie or a show, you're never alone. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button. Do you guys like Friends? Have you seen it? Thoughts? Would love to hear that in the comments below.